This is The Blockchain Show.
The Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies and promotes widespread adoption of cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology.
This is episode number 38 with Matt Carano of Swarm City. Some very cool stuff about using the blockchain to get stuff done.
Are you looking for an easy way to buy Bitcoin or Ether on a safe, secure platform? Coinbase is the easiest place to buy and sell digital currencies. Sign up today as a friend of the Blockchain Show, and if you buy or sell $100 of Bitcoin or more, you'll earn $10 of free Bitcoin for yourself and $10 of Bitcoin to support this show. Join now using the link in this episode's show notes at theblockchainshow.com. Ledger Wallet is a smart card-based Bitcoin hardware wallet bringing maximum protection level to your Bitcoins without sacrificing usability or control. Find the link in this episode's show notes.
My name is Matt Carano. I do communications in a communication hive in Swarm City. I started participating in that project, I don't know, maybe sometime in November or so, whenever there was a token sale. So I was involved with that. And I noticed soon thereafter that there was some need for some help in communication. So I started participating in Slack and helping to rewrite some Medium posts, and they sort of started trusting me more and more, and just started doing more and more stuff for them. And we just did our big launch event for our MVP last night, which I helped orchestrate.
Yeah, can you name the ICOs that have a app that they've actually built after the ICO that's functioning?
I think we're the only one, as far as I know. Yeah, I think just Swarm City is.
So what is the new, I think it's a Boardwalk release? Tell us
That's
about what Boardwalk's all about.
Well, do you have a good understanding of what Swarm City is in general? Would it be easier to kind of start from there? I just want to make sure you have the right context.
Yeah, I mean, I know a little bit about it, but go ahead and shoot.
Cool. Well, Swarm City is a decentralized commerce platform. And I know you probably kind of get a sense from those words what it is, but the way that I like to think about it is commerce takes two things, an ability to communicate and an ability to transact. And in person transactions are really above board, and it's very easy to see. Like if you go into a store, you can see the stuff on the shelf, you can pick it up, you can hold it, right? And when you go and you pay for it, the shopkeeper, the person at the register, they can see that you have cash, and the transaction is all really out in the open. But when you involve the internet, it's no longer that way, right? You might be dealing with people from across the world or people you've never met before. It's a totally different experience, and to try to make transactions, out in the open, above board, safe, secure again, commerce platforms popped up like Amazon, right? So you go to Amazon, and they take care of the whole issue of, can you trust this person? Do they have money, right? Or does the seller have the goods? Or with Uber, they create a platform where you just go and they sort of take care of is this person safe? Does this person have money? Does this person have a car? But these are centralized ways of organizing to solve the problem of the transaction being transparent. And that's fine. Like we needed it, right? Because we wanted to use this new thing called the internet. But what happens is when you have a centralized solution, well, it costs a lot to be organized that way. So, you got to pay payment processing. You got to pay for all the tech beyond involved in the website and all that stuff, and that takes a toll financially. So. In Amazon, it could be 10% or more of the transaction, or in Uber, it's 25% or more. That's a lot. And what's happening is it's being taken from the people who are actually creating the value themselves, right? The people who are transacting, the buyers, the sellers, the service providers and seekers, they're the ones that if they weren't doing these transactions, nothing would be happening at all. So they're taking a lot of value from this community.
It's really weird that we call it like the sharing economy when it's really just like
it's not.
It's the amalgamation economy where this big corporation rents, seeks, and takes the vast majority of the value to be had from the transaction. It puts somebody who wants to maybe rent out their house for a night,
right,
and then takes all the value out of the transaction.
Yeah, and the cool thing is like I really think that right, Airbnb or Uber, I think they put us in a step to the right direction because there's a paradigm shift that needed to happen. Like, oh, we can do this between ourselves. Like we're our own mini little entrepreneurs, right? We're our own mini companies, and so it sort of opened people's eyes to thinking that way. So I'm thankful that they did that because it was sort of a step in the right direction, but what Swarm City does is it solves that issue of how do you create a trustless, transparent transaction without having a middleman in the way taking value. So that's why I call it a decentralized commerce platform. It gives people the ability to communicate and to transact without anybody in the middle, basically. And so how that I'll tell you what Boardwalk is, which was your original question. So Swarm City is being rolled out in 3 phases. It's Terminal, Boardwalk, Storefront. And the first phase, Terminal, is sort of the transacting part of the equation, of the commerce equation, right? And what it did was it gave people the ability to create user profiles and to send and receive the Swarm token or SWAT. So in crypto, I mean, you know this, but a profile is essentially a public-private key pair, right? So that's what Terminal did. But then Boardwalk introduces the communication tool, how we find each other. And so what it does is it allows people to use a hashtag to find each other. So in the first, so like I said, this was the MVP. It's still raw, but right now people can use one hashtag called Pioneer. It's hashtag Pioneer. And make an offer, and request a service. Say, hashtag Pioneer, I would like to get a ride from this place to this place. And someone else can search in their geolocation to see what people's requests are, and they can answer them. They can click on it and say, oh yeah, I'd love to drive you to that place for that amount of money. I can be there in 10 minutes. Would that work? And then they both agree to do the deal. Funds from both parties get put into, essentially, it's a smart contract, but it's essentially like an escrow agent. And then when the transaction's done and the seeker says, yep, that was great, funds get transferred to the provider, and voila, it's over. But later on, hashtags will be open up for anybody to create their own. So if you can sort of conceptualize it like a hashtag is your business. Like you could do hashtag contractor, right? If you're like you create your own hashtag contractor, and people who are looking for contractors, electricians, carpenters, that sort of thing, can post a request. Hey, I need an electrician to come in and fix my panel, and I'll give you 100 SWAT tokens for that. And then an electrician on the other end can search by that hashtag in their location and find the person that needs that service. Does that make sense?
It does. So an MVP is just a minimum viable product. So it's just the basics of what you can do right now.
Yeah. So the dev team, the way that they like to produce is they go live as soon as they have something that can go live, as soon as something is secure enough to go live. So we wanted to launch Boardwalk as soon as that communication tool was functioning well, so that the smart and we can maybe talk a little bit about this, but as soon as the smart contracts and the blockchain and all that stuff and interacting with those things was working properly, they wanted to release Boardwalk and then see how people use it and then refine the user experience basically over and over until it's in its sort of final state.
I'm on the app right now and I see a request from a pollinator.
Oh yeah,
it says ride for. It sounds like Paul Puig. doesn't it?
Yeah.
Right from
No,
Sandy.
that's him. That's Paul Pouy.
That's him.
Yeah.
For 3 SWT, what's an SWT?
Oh, that's the Swarm City token. That's the denomination of value in Swarm City. If you're familiar with how and you probably are, but if you're familiar with how projects work on the Ethereum platform, if you build a project on the Ethereum platform, you use your own token as a unit of value, so that it's basically your value, the value of your token is not affected by the reputation of other projects. So, if you do a good job, then your token has value, and it's not affected by other projects on the Ethereum blockchain.
Where can I get Swarm City tokens if I don't have any?
Yeah, well, you could do a job.
Okay.
No. Or you can certainly you can go to Bittrex and purchase there. Changely, Shapeshift both offer. You'll probably start to see more and more exchanges as we go.
Okay, so Changely, Shapeshift, and Bittrex for now.
Yep, so far.
Or work for it.
Or work for it.
Yeah. So, when the initial inspiration for Swarm City, it was mainly like a rideshare with the thoughts maybe to expand out, but it started with rideshare. You're kind of throwing that a little bit to the side maybe and just doing anything at this time? Anybody can create their own hashtag? Is that, do I have that right, or?
Yeah, so I'll answer kind of both. It's kind of a two-part answer to this.
Yep.
So what happened if the history-wise is right? So Arcade City came first, and they were really concentrating on rideshare, absolutely, but they wanted to look into decentralized rideshare, and they made enough ruckus and noise that a small dev team from Antwerp, Belgium, led by system architect King Flurkel, saw this was going on here, and reached out and said, "Wait a minute, I'm sorry, I should go back." They were working on things that like decentralized projects for the city of Antwerp already. Like they were already developing on the Ethereum platform, so they were solving things that Arcade City wanted to solve. So they reached out and said, "Hey, we should we can do this. Like we already have like parts of this coded." And then, so like I said, so there was a team up there, but eventually it became clear that there was definitely a split in how the project should move forward, and there was a divide there, and Swarm City was born. But the intention was, even from that point forward, was to create an ecosystem for decentralized commerce, right? And so what will happen is, I mentioned that there's 3 phases to producing the Swarm City ecosystem, and the third one is called Storefront. And what Storefront allows people to do is connect a very user-friendly GUI, graphic user interface, to their hashtag. So hashtag owners will make it easier for people interacting on their hashtag to interact with it, right? Because it'll look more like an app than you're being in Swarm City. So the first storefront that will be created, I believe, will be a rideshare storefront. That's what the dev team is going to be working on next. So we'll have really a nice, killer, beautiful looking rideshare storefront. But the cool thing is the dev team is acting like a model for all of us. So that's why they did hashtag Pioneer first. It's just a model of what does it look like to own a hashtag, to create commerce over a hashtag in Swarm City. And then once that's sort of figured out and people like kind of know how to behave there, then they'll open it up, like I said, for everybody else to create their own hashtags. And it'll be the same thing with Storefront. They'll create one storefront for everybody to kind of see and model off of. And then basically any dev who has front end experience, HTML, CSS, Polymer, who wants to create storefronts, they can. And hashtag owners will essentially choose the best storefront for their own hashtag. So they might have a suite of rideshare storefronts that they can choose from by different developers that do different things. Maybe this one has a map that shows the timing of when the car is going to arrive, or maybe this one has a really killer like subjective rating system they can just choose the ones that best work for their hashtag.
What's Polymer, and what do you mean by own a hashtag? Can you
Right.
buy a hashtag?
Yeah, so no, you start your own hashtag. A hashtag is a smart contract. It's the context that you're transacting over, right? Like we're transacting in need a ride because hashtag need a ride because we're looking for ride share, right? So it's a context, but it's also a smart contract. So pretty soon anybody will be able to open up their own hashtag. It'll be a very simple in the user interface in Swarm City, a very simple way for people to create their own hashtag. And what happens is the hashtag owner wants to make it a really awesome place to do commerce for a specific context. So in the rideshare context, if someone creates hashtag need a ride, they want to make a really great place for people looking for rides and people wanting to give rides to do transactions on that hashtag. And the way they do that is by using a storefront that's appealing to the people transacting over need a ride. And by maybe offering services like arbitration services or communication services, that sort of thing.
Could you do something like, would there be competing hashtags? Like maybe somebody makes a hashtag Uber Killer and it would compete with I Need a Ride?
Yeah, so what happens is the hashtag owner is incentivized to create a great place to do commerce, right? And the way they're incentivized is they get to choose a small fixed transaction fee that they get per transaction that goes over their hashtag. And so they're incentivized to want to create a nice place to do business. But if they don't, then another person can start their own hashtag to compete. So it's a completely full platform for commerce.
So you wouldn't have to know the smart contract language to own a hashtag. You'll provide a user interface for that.
That's exactly, you just made the total point, is there are benefits to using smart contracts and the blockchain, right? But it's not always pretty. I mean, I was an early adopter of Bitcoin. You have the blockchain show. I'm sure you're pretty comfortable in the space, but it's not for everybody, right? Like there are the general population who would totally benefit from this technology, but it scares them a little bit, right? It's not the most user friendly. So what Swarm City does, what the dev team has done, is make it easy for the general public to use smart contracts and blockchains by creating a nice, beautiful, basically user experience over it. I mean, we're not there yet, but that's where we're going. You benefit from using smart contracts because it creates a trustless scenario, and you benefit from using blockchains because it makes transactions transparent. So it gives the general public a way to do that in a user-friendly way. And that's what the storefronts will be too. It's like from I don't know exactly, but one way that this can turn out is people don't even know that they're transacting in Swarm City. They're just using the storefront or app, their favorite app, right? It might be the hashtag Need a Ride storefront might just be called Need a Ride, and when they it might look like an app on their desktop or the desktop of their phone. They just click on, and they don't even know that they're using Swarm City in the background. They're just transacting, getting rideshare done on their favorite app, but they're benefiting from smart contracts and the blockchain by probably a lot better pricing.
It's always one of my favorite things in the space when an application comes along where nobody even knows that they're using cryptocurrency. It's just functioning in the background, making things, perform better, and it's slightly cheaper. Swarm City isn't there yet, but you hope that it's possible to get there someday.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. I know how important Boardwalk, like what we released last night, is. It's really decentralized commerce didn't really exist like this before at all. And so now that's like the hard part, right? To make all the smart contracts and blockchain stuff and paying the blockchain stuff work properly. But now it's just about refining the user experience, which is fun.
When do you think so right now it's just opened up on the wanter end, or the person, I need a ride, I need something. when will open up on the other end for, I have a car, or something like that, where the producer is putting their information out there?
That's a great question. I actually don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I mean, I'll have to stay tuned too. And but that's a great question.
What's like the dollar amount of a Swarm token like about right now?
Oh, geez, I don't know. We just have to go to Bittrex and we could probably find out. Probably somewhere between 4 and 5 USD.
Yeah, it looks like about 452. I just went to CoinMarketCap. Let's see. So right now, somebody looking at the website wants to bring home a rug from Zara for 1 Swarm token. Need 2 breakfast burgers at Portsmouth, New Hampshire, Lincoln Avenue. Is that near you?
Nice.
You can go make $16 if you do that one.
Yeah, I mean at PorkFest next week, we probably didn't tell the listeners of that, but Swarm City, some of the folks from Swarm City will be at PorkFest in New Hampshire next week. We'll do all sorts of fun transactions. Like I totally intend to have people bring me food all week long using Swarm City.
I'm sure it'll get a lot of use in PorkFest. Have you gone to PorkFest before?
Yeah, I've been there. This will be my 3rd time, yeah.
Your 3rd time. What is PorkFest for some of our listeners who don't know, and maybe you can pitch it?
Oh, yeah. PorkFest is just a festival in northern New Hampshire put on by the Free State Project. And, yeah, it's a fun event. There's usually 1,000 to 2,000 people and a lot of speakers and activities and food and good folks. And, yeah, it's a blast.
We had Eric Voorhees, and he talked a little bit about the Free State Project in one of our episodes. Are you a member? Did you move there because of it, or?
So it's a little complicated because I've lived most of my life here.
Yeah.
I've lived elsewhere too, but so I do consider myself a Free Stater. But you could also call me a Pre-Stater.
Oh, is that a name?
Right, or as somewhat people have said a Restater too, because I was in New Hampshire and left here. But yeah, I mean I consider myself a Free State Project member. Yeah.
Yeah, so what is the Free State Project for those who are listening who don't quite know?
I mean, just in brief, it's just a commitment from 20,000 folks to move to the state of New Hampshire to make it the most prosperous and free place that they possibly can.
It's definitely an interesting movement. You don't hear about that too often. Like let's pick a small state and hold ideals of freedom. And try to, because we have democracy, try to get enough people. Because right now, there's a lot of people who believe in those sort of ideals, but they live in different parts of the world.
Sure.
And if you can get them all in, the same spot voting, you can see real change within that state. And I think it's even if it hasn't had the effect that Free Staters want, the size of effect. I think that in general, it's there has been some movement towards. Being a more free state.
Oh yeah, I mean, even if you just I don't really participate in the political side of things, but even if you just see some of the legislation that's gone through within the last few years, I mean, there's that's been really driven by the liberty-friendly people in the community here. Anything from just all sorts of stuff. I don't want to get too much into politics, but
I like to stay away.
But you can definitely see it moving in the right direction. Absolutely.
I definitely like to stay away from politics as well.
Yeah, right. This is the blockchain show.
Right, not the politics show.
Block. Yeah.
What are some of the interesting projects that you think are in this space besides, of course, Swarm City?
Okay, Giveth is a really great one.
Giveth,
which is decentralizing. Giving, like charitable giving, and I think it's just a really cool idea. I know I really like to give to charities, but it's hard to know which ones are like. You want to make sure that the money that you give is going to doing the most good, right? And so obviously some charities are 90% of the funding goes towards the intended target, but sometimes it's only like 20 or 30 or 40%. So it's really hard. Unless you know kind of where to look and how to audit that, so it takes time and effort. But with Giveth, I don't know the full scope of how they do it or the technology, but it'll using smart contracts and blockchain will allow people to really track where their funds going. And I think directly to like the end user, like you can follow it all the way to the end user so you can see exactly where it went to, which is such a great idea and really needed.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's the one that's really exciting for me in the space so far. But yeah, I mean, I'm just interested in seeing what shakes out. I know there's been a lot of token sales lately that have generated a lot of funds, and it'll be interesting.
It's too much money, right? It's just like people are going to lose a lot of money on ICOs, or that's my opinion. What do you think?
Well, I just know that, you know, not every business is successful, right? And you know, and so what percentage of these will be successful? It's definitely not going to be 100%. And
Right.
so when you're talking about, you know, like 30 million, 40 million, 50 million, 90 million, 100 million,
140.
whatever projects, some of these are not going to work out, and people will potentially lose out. But I think it's just because this is the frontier, right? And eventually this stuff will get worked out. People are not going to. You're just going to either have to have a better plan than just say a white paper,
Right.
To like show people what the project is going to look like, and maybe some benchmarks or funding at different benchmarks. I'm not sure. This will have to be worked out, I think, so that people aren't just funding it based on a white paper.
Yeah. Have there been any sort of ICOs or crowd funds or crowd sales where there was a benchmark where, you know, all the funds would be gathered at first, but there's some sort of escrow that, you know, gives them some seed money to start off, but keeps the larger bulk of it behind for, you know, a more traditional approach with like different series of raising funds? I can't think of any.
Yeah, I can't think of anything offhand either, but I think that would be a really great thing. Like you just lock them in some sort of smart contract or something with some benchmarks, and if you hit that benchmark, it gets released for the next phase or something. I know my devs are working hand in hand with a few others and a few other projects on a concept called Trello, which is we wrote a Medium post on it that I can link to you at some point if you want later, but that describes basically it's a Ethereum power up for Trello.
Okay.
That allows people to tokenize a Trello board. And so what you could do is the board owner could like put their entire project there. Say you were going to do a token sale, and you put your entire project out there and and all the little tasks in each that are going to get you to that, you know, your end result, and people can fund specific cards or specific tasks of the project, right? And then once that task gets, and other people can look at it and say, oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll take care of that task. And once it gets checked off, then you could have reputation tokens being minted from those cards that go to the person who funded it, and so they can essentially get like tokens on the entire board, right? They get sort of a piece of all or a percentage of all the tokens that'll be created for the board. So you could do an ICO that way, or an ITO that way, token sale. And so anyway, that's something that's really exciting for me, because I think what it does is it makes these projects way more tangible. And you don't have, like, you can, if you're someone looking at it, you could fund a task instead of funding the whole thing. Like you could say, oh yeah, I know, oh yeah, they want to do this type of communication for it. Well, you know, I understand that part, so I'll fund that definitely, because that's something that I'd want to see. Or this feature, oh yeah, they want to do this feature, I'll fund development for this feature, because that's something that would really benefit me. You could really target how you invest in these things. Does that sort of make sense?
It's definitely interesting.
Yeah.
I thought of another question, maybe to backtrack a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Is there any sort of integration with Swarm City? Let's say I create a peer-to-peer insurance, and I want it to be, you know, high-tech insurance where it's, you know, pay-as-you-go. So a driver is only using his peer-to-peer insurance when he's actually driving. It's like connected to a smartphone or one of those GPS things you plug into your car. Is there any way to connect that, or any plans of connecting it in the future, or is this a good idea or a bad idea, or your thoughts on it in general? If you were to be able to, you know, insure the driver only while they're using Swarm City.
I think that's an awesome idea. And I think what you're talking about, so I can't conceptualize like the tech mechanics. I think you probably are a little bit more tech savvy than me of how this would work. But what you're referring to is what we call hives. And so, you know how we talked about hashtag owners and you know, they're attaching to their hashtag to storefronts to make it, you know, very user friendly for the people transacting. Well, if they want to provide other services that they don't do themselves to their hashtag, they could for their hashtag they could hire a hive. So, for instance, a hashtag owner can say, "Well, geez, you know, sometimes there's these disputes, and I want to make sure these are adjudicated really fairly, but I don't have the background in that. But these guys over here, this group, does. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, for a percentage or a portion of the transaction fee that I charge, I'm going to give them like 20% of the transaction fee that I charge for every transaction that goes through my hashtag, and they'll handle all arbitration for me. Or this group, this insurance group, this decentralized insurance group, they want to provide insurance for every single driver rider experience on my hashtag. I'm going to give them a portion of my hashtag fee to handle that for everybody who's driving and riding on my hashtag. So yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. The Trello board, is that live now, or are you still developing it?
No, it's just in the beginning stages of development.
You can have a Trello board for developing it, I suppose.
Right, you do an ITO for. No, you can't do it like that. No.
I am just amazed that the most recent one, the Bancor, got 140 million. BAT got, I don't remember how much million, but it was a lot. Maybe I understand BAT a little more. They actually have, you know, a browser, and they actually have, you know, Brendan Eck, who created JavaScript.
Yeah.
I mean, Bancor's got a lot of people too, but I don't see 140 million. I don't see a lot of these figures for, you know, companies that don't have much to show right now. You know, it's like it's a lot of runway, a lot of money that you're basically just and Ether just goes up in value so quickly too that it's 140 million today. It could be, you know, 1.4 billion.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, so like there was a lot of the ones raised, a lot of like stuff like First Blood raised like 7 million when Ether was, you know, $7 or $10 or something like that, and now it's, you know, 350. So how do you keep these developers interested in the product when they just had their, you know, 7 million raise in 30 seconds go to, you know,
yeah.
I
think that's a great question. I think that's something that a lot of these projects are really going to have to solve. Because you're right. It's like you almost, and I think through that process too, I didn't really live through it. I mean, I participated in the Swarm City token sale, but just, you know, from the other end, not from the inside. But I think there's so much stress and like preparation that has to go into it before you even do it, and then the marketing, and then it's just all these things have to happen. And I think after, you might feel pretty drained, right? So like then how do you remotivate yourself to start going into production mode? I think that's really hard. I mean, for us, you know, I don't want to speak for the dev team directly because you know, I don't know like how they feel, but my sense is that they're really philosophically aligned, and they see a huge need for what we're doing, and I think that that's definitely motivated and pushed them through this process. And my feeling is now that this boardwalk release was such a big thing in terms of the technology that I think my hope is that they'll be just inspired by being able to put that out into the world, getting this far. That they'll just stay motivated through the end. But yeah, it's hard. But the other cool thing, at least in our project, is what I've noticed is we have a really strong community. Like our Slack is really active and very positive. Sometimes I go into other Slacks and just like lurk a little bit. No one sees me, and there's sometimes there's a lot of trolling. But But in ours, it's really it's a really great place. And what I'm seeing is like people wanting to contribute, and so like other devs come in and start coming in and just like doing, I don't know the language, doing pull requests, like solving issues. And I think that would, like, if I were in the dev team, that would motivate me too, to just see that the community is really supportive and wants to help. Like, okay, let's get this done. But yeah, so at least from my perspective of how our dev team acts and works, I think that they've done a really good job focusing, and yeah, I think some of the other projects, when you're talking about money, like that amount of money, I think it might be difficult, but hopefully, there's a lot of exciting projects. So hopefully a lot of them go through and make the world a better place.
So the taxi, kind of to switch subjects a little bit, the taxi companies started, monopolizing the 1800s.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know when. And then Uber revolutionized that in 2009. That's only, 8 years ago?
Yeah.
And now Swarm City, really wants to revolutionize. Uber is a legacy system now. They're the ones being displaced. How would you describe, living in a world where technology just advances at such a rapid pace? Where
it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, during our live stream event last night, I even think I overheard Bernd Lapp, who's the Business Hive lead in Swarm City. He even said 2 months in Ethereum is like an entire year, and he's totally right. I feel like I didn't really meet the devs and really interact with the devs until just the first part of the year. In just a more regular capacity, I was definitely looking before. So that's only been 6 months, but it feels like I've been doing this project forever. And I just think there's so much excitement on Ethereum projects right now, and so many people are inspired, and a lot of devs are starting to come into the space. It's able to be pushed forward so fast. So I just think that's what's gonna happen. We're gonna see constant new and awesome new iterations and awesome new projects spring up for the foreseeable future. And maybe Ethereum's not the end all be all. Maybe there will be other blockchain advancements that do other cool stuff, and then you'll see a lot of cool development on there. But it's crazy to think of how fast stuff is going, and it gives me a lot of hope, right? Because I think that this technology really connects people, it connects individuals, and allows them to have a little bit more power in their life over what they want to do, how they want to spend their money, and so that's what's so inspiring to me, is it's we're advancing in that realm. So yeah, it's so fascinating. It's exciting. It's really exciting. I mean, you watch it too, right?
Yeah.
It must be extremely exciting for you to see.
It's such an interesting. I got involved in this mainly for the technology. When I first noticed Bitcoin, I thought, the technology was really, really cool. I had maybe not anarchist leanings, but certainly sympathies to their to those type of ideals, and those were kind of the only two type of people in this space. Later came
tech people and anarchists.
Yeah, basically. I mean, is that wrong or?
No, I think you're predominantly right. I mean, it's definitely liberty leaning.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, there are some. I'm sure I've met some that don't really feel that way, but they're pretty rare in this space. I think it's definitely majority liberty friendly. I don't know, maybe not total anarchists, but would maybe describe themselves as liberty friendly, or maybe even libertarian or so. Yeah,
voluntarist, libertarian.
Sure.
that type of leaning.
That vein, yes.
Yep. And then the technology just took off, and I had, no idea that there would be so many different types of tokens, entire economies, really change, who can even determine what value is, just change the entire, the world. I look at it now and I think, if there's ever going to be a way where somebody can solve global warming, it'll be through the use of blockchains.
Sure.
It's just such a fascinating technology, and that's kind of why, I do the show, because I really think it's a technology that can, create less wars, can be a lot fairer to people all over the world. It's just such a amazing space to be in.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's been exciting. I mean, I was doing some stuff working Bitcoin a few years back, and then I was out of the space for a while. But I love that I get back in, because I really, with the Swarm City project, I'm very thankful that that the dev team got involved when they did and started steering the direction of this project. And I know that like what they're doing, I'm able to be philosophically aligned and vocationally aligned all at the same time. So that's a really powerful feeling, right? To like have your whole life kind of be nice and aligned that way.
So you have your own, or you're the leader of the communications hashtag. Is that what I'm gathering, or no?
So the way that I like to say it is I participate or I lead a communication hive in Swarm City. So Swarm City is completely decentralized. Actually, that's maybe a topic we should touch on.
Sure.
So there can be many communication hives or many people who want to do communication. I do communication the way that I want to. That speaks to my value system, right? And luckily, the dev team they saw value in that, and I get paid to do it, right? But other dev teams can do this, or other dev teams do, but other communication folks can do it too if they see a need that they want to fulfill. But the same thing is on the dev side too. They're basically creating a sandbox to play in. So we're completely decentralized, because even though we raised Ethereum in order to make the project happen, but at some point that Ethereum runs out, and then there's no central force doing anything. It's just all these hives and hashtag owners and storefront creators that are building the platform together. And so the dev team, they could be hired as a hive, right? By, say, a hashtag owner wants a kind of a tricky storefront, and the dev team, they're the experts in it. So maybe they're like, hey, listen, if you can create this really tricky thing for me, I'll give you X amount or X percentage of my hashtag fee. So they get to participate as well as a hive. So I don't say, I try not, or if I do, it's a slip up, it's a mistake. I don't say I am right. Communication or whatever. I say I am a, and I just try to provide as much value as I can, and other communication hives can pop up too.
So the devs then hire you, and are you available for other dev teams through Swarm City? Or I do apologize, I haven't spent a ton of time using the new app. So
yeah, don't even worry about it.
Right.
The concept is so interesting and revolutionary and wonderful, but it takes a little time to kind of get the language down. Like I see that too. So for right now, like I would have no bandwidth to work with anybody else at all. It's been absolutely nuts. But eventually, like maybe, yeah. But it wouldn't necessarily be with other dev teams. It would be probably if a business owner, a hashtag owner was like, oh, I want to build my new brand, my new Uber killer, or my new Amazon-ish retail establishment or whatever. And you did some great work when Swarm City was in its infancy. So I'd love to pay you to do communications for us. They could totally do that, right? But yeah, no. So I get I get paid to do communications in Swarm City by the key holder. So I call the dev team, even though they're not all devs. Like Baron is not a dev, but I consider him part of the dev team. So there are 5 key holders that hold keys to the Ethereum wallet. So the wallet that all the ether from the token sale went to, and from that, from funds that were raised during the token sale, I get paid to do communication stuff.
Okay. When will there be drone delivery on Swarm City?
Oh, I hope next week,
Next
because
week.
you know what I hate to do is grocery shop. We got to figure that out. That's the thing that we have to figure out, right? It's like, who likes to grocery shop?
Nobody.
And right, or very rare people. And so if we could do drone grocery delivery, I would be, I don't know about the happiest person on the planet, but I would be pretty happy. So yeah, I think, and maybe, maybe the interaction between blockchain and AI will get us there, and maybe that's closer than we think.
I
But definitely, maybe not drone service, but definitely other delivery service, right? It might not be unmanned for a little bit, but definitely delivery services.
you know, I'm somebody who's never really scared about AIs, but I know a number of people, including like Stephen Hawking, is. What is the? Why are people so afraid of AI?
Oh, geez. I mean, for me, it would be because I wouldn't say that I'm afraid of it, but I'm optimistically cautious or cautiously optimistic or something. I don't know. I don't know. It's, I think obviously for me, it's the creepiness of the control being out of your hands, surrendering it to something that you consider not alive. And even if when it becomes self-aware like that, thinking about it in terms of if it's alive or not, that's a really weird experience because you have this context of what alive means. It's like flesh, and there's like this physical interaction thing, and for a computer to be self-aware, it's like when, I don't know, it redefines your definition. I think it touches your soul in a different way, and so there's that. So there's sort of the creepy factor and the soul searching factor, but then also the lack of control. Like if this new, like we sort of, it's hard enough trying to figure out what humans, what their like desires and wants and needs are, but how a AI would think or have desires is like completely foreign. It's like an alien, right? It would be totally alien. The way that they perceive and the way that they want is probably not like the way that we do. And so sussing out what their goals are, I think, is hard. Or like, can you trust them enough to believe what their goals are, believe what they say they are? And I think that only would come with a lot of time and experience interacting with them. So
I had an interesting conversation with Carson Stucker a few weeks ago where he was talking about like if you were to take Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but instead, use it for a computer or AI, what does an AI want? What's its base? Power was the first, that's at its base.
Yeah.
And then it needs mobility later on. It needs currency later on. It's an interesting thing to think about what, would be driving these AI devices or AI machines.
Definitely. It's going to be interesting how this all works out, but I think it's closer than we think.
How soon do you think that Swarm City will be like a dominant player in this space?
It's really hard to tell because a lot of it there's a big question, and that's is the world ready, right? And I think so, and I hope so, and I want it to be so, but I don't know. So my entire goal when I'm doing communication for Swarm City is just to say what is, try to be as clear as possible about what it is, because I'm hoping that it will inspire people to want to start to build. So the first wave that I've seen, and what I think is really positive, and hope this will continue to sort of ramp up, is people who are interested right now are people who are more entrepreneurial, are interested in building stuff, want to create communities, that sort of thing. They're creative people and builders. And if they're inspired enough to make really user-friendly interfaces, basically a user-friendly way to use their services with the help of the dev team, of course, then I think it can definitely be the platform for commerce. in really any context, in retail context or in rideshare or service provider context. It really can. It's just whether or not people will be inspired enough to build it. And I really hope people do, because I think the technology is amazing. Like I said, it really hasn't been done like this before. There are other really cool projects, like, I keep my eye on OpenBazaar, which is doing a decentralized retail thing, which is really cool. But that's the sort of thing that I want to see happen. Just being able to really securely and safely cutting out the middleman, or essentially exchanging the middleman for code, for a contract.
Are you kind of like an OpenBazaar for services, where OpenBazaar is mainly products? I have a storefront and there's, I'm selling some sort of physical goods that I'm shipping or digital good that I'm shipping, where Swarm City is more about services like ride sharing or... I didn't think about that, but now that you mention it.
Yeah, it's hard to know how it'll shake out, because I really think that you could do either. Like, you could replace Amazon on Swarm City. It would just have to be done right. Okay. And I'm not a developer, so I can't quite conceptualize what that would look like. But there's other things, like you would need. So if you want it to be retail, well, then there needs to be sort of some shipping component. And how do you do that in a decentralized way? Well, maybe you have hives, like a shipping hive, that a hashtag owner can sort of integrate into their hashtag, and they would deal with making sure that people are sending stuff correct, sending on time. What is it? Remittance, I think, is the word. Doing remittance correctly. Yeah. So if that gets handled, and then storefronts are really easy to negotiate in order to buy and sell stuff, then it can do what Amazon does, no problem. But I don't know. Like, maybe people like to use WhatsApp, or people like to use Signal, or people like to use. So maybe they would like certain features of Swarm City they would like for certain types of commerce. It may be that case. Like, it might be that service providers or the sharing economy is like really where people are comfortable doing it, but not so much retail. And then maybe they would use a different platform like OpenBazaar for retail. I don't know, but I think it's certainly, all of that can definitely be done in Swarm City.
I'm trying to think of who are your competitors in this space. Is like a Colony a competitor, or an Embermine? These other companies where they're trying to do similar stuff. What are your thoughts on competitors?
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with either of those projects. All I would say is I can't really think of anybody who's doing anything like us. The thing is, like, we already kind of have decentralized transactions, right? Like, you can do Bitcoin or Ethereum transactions without using third parties. But it's really the community. It's like how we find each other, and how we what context we're transacting in. That's really the part that I don't really know of a peer right now to be able to do that in a decentralized way by using the hashtag contract. Maybe there are others on there, but I don't know of any, or I'm not familiar with any projects that I would consider competition at this point.
Okay, and it's always a direct peer-to-peer transaction, even with the, what do you call them, hives. So, there's like a person in the hive that is paying a different person in a different hive, or a different. It's never like a conglomerate of people that kind of divvies up the proceeds together.
Well, so a hashtag owner can. So essentially, what I guess, to break it down to its easiest level, a hashtag owner can set what the fee is and how that fee is allocated. So every transaction that goes through a hashtag, say they get whatever, 0.001 SWAT, I don't know, for every transaction that goes through. Regardless, every transaction on that hashtag, they would get that amount, right? But what they do is they set, the user interface in Swarm City will allow them to say, oh, I want to divvy that fee up. And so I'm going to send this amount to this person, this amount to this person, this amount to this person. So a hashtag owner could be a group of people, right? And they just share the hashtag fee. Or it could be one hashtag. The hashtag owner could just be one person, and they divvy up the fee to a bunch of different hives who are providing services, like I said, remittance services or arbitration services or whatever. But the hashtag owner is not like, they're not a party to the deal at all. They're just maintaining the context. So, so it's really, the smart contract is already written. Okay, so all these smart contracts, they have certain capabilities, right? They have to have an escrow component. They have to have an ability to receive SWAT tokens and to send SWAT tokens. So that's already programmed in. And when people create their own hashtag, the way that I think it works, like I said, I'm not as tech savvy as maybe you are, and certainly not the devs, but how I think they're doing is they're just sort of cloning the rules of that contract. So all these hashtags, they all behave the same way. They all have those same components. It's just the hashtag owner is working on the context part of it. It's like we want to make sure that the right people are using this hashtag for the right reasons and for the right things, and that we're making a good experience, a nice, safe, clean experience for them.
You mentioned Open Bazaar a little bit ago.
Yeah.
Do you have any opinion? One of the things that they were thinking about doing was switching from Bitcoin because of the fees. I think last time I looked, fees were about $4 to send a Bitcoin transaction. What are your thoughts on, the scaling debate, I guess you could call it, and the congestion on the Bitcoin network? And
well, I think that I think it's definitely a problem for Bitcoin, and I personally don't transact using Bitcoin anymore.
Did you used to?
I think. Oh yeah, I worked for Lamasu, Bitcoin BTM company, and yeah. So when Bitcoin came, when I was introduced to Bitcoin in 2010 or 2011, I was so excited by it, and I still think, the white paper is brilliant. I still think it's a beautiful concept, but I think where it's going is broken, and I don't see it coming out in a very favorable way anytime soon. That's my personal opinion, and I really think that there's a lot more excitement and community and great dev work occurring in the Ethereum space right now, not in Bitcoin. And in general, like I'm really sorry to say it, this like fundamentally, this hurts me deep down to my core. But when people come to me and they ask me about Bitcoin, I say that you can do as you wish. But my personal opinion is that it's not offering enough utility to do what it's designed to do. And by utility, I mean if you make it harder for people to transact, either with wait times or high fees, then they're going to stop doing it. And if you stop doing it, then it has that velocity. Being able to transact is part of the utility. If you lose part of the utility, you lose part of the reason to use Bitcoin. It's less. You have less incentive to use Bitcoin when there are other options out there that are working better. So, yeah, it saddens me, but yeah, I don't. I think it's really a shame what's happening.
Yeah, I think there was a time when I would want to show a friend Bitcoin and I'd send them $10 with an Airbits wallet or something.
Yeah,
and you can't do that anymore. It cost me 5 cents before or something, fractions of a cent, and now it's dollars. What fun is that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. And people argue that it's just scaling the price. The cost is just scaling up with the look at the Bitcoin. The value of Bitcoin, or the dollar, the fiat value of Bitcoin right now, so it's just scaling up with that. It's okay. And I'm like, no. The point of Bitcoin was to be able to go to transact in $10 purchases and $5 go to your coffee shop, go have a meal. Like it's supposed to be commerce, and it's not. And the thing is, it's like people say, look at the value of Bitcoin right now, and I'm like, well, yeah, but you're losing some of the utility, the reason, the incentive to use Bitcoin. Don't you think that's going to have an effect on the value long term? Like, don't even look at that. If the utility's not there, what's the point? So yeah. It's just it's too bad.
Luckily, I think Bitcoin is still alive. It just goes by a different name now. Bitcoin itself.
Yeah. That's a good way to think about it. It's like the essence of what Satoshi created is regardless of what happens with Bitcoin, all of this would not have happened.
Right.
without that, right? So yeah, you're right. That's a very positive way to look at it. So thank you for saying that. If anybody's interested in more information, or you can find all the social media stuff, right? So Swarm City DApp on Facebook or Twitter. But really, like, if you want to communicate directly with people who are building stuff, come into our Slack and hang out and chat with us, because we definitely love people who are excited about the projects, who want to build stuff or want to know more. That's the best way to do it. And maybe if you wouldn't mind, I can send you the Slack invite, Steve. And
any sort of
do you mind putting?
Yeah, any sort of links you want, just you can put it in our Slack or email us or whatever.
Cool. Yeah, I'll put that in there. Thank you. But yeah, so if you're interested and you want to know more, come and say hello.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a very cool project, and people should be a lot more excited about this project. I think maybe I don't even want to ask it. All right.
Are you sure?
Yeah, no, I was going to go into, I'm just going to cut this from here, or unless you give a really great answer or something. But I think, maybe the reason why it doesn't get a lot of, as much as it should be getting, is the original Arcade City and the Christopher David stuff. And I really just wanted to stay away from that whole topic.
Sure.
Unless it's something you want to talk about.
No, not necessarily. I mean, I definitely have an answer for that. Like, I see that Christopher David actually, for all of the the faults, also did something really great by making enough ruckus to inspire, number one, to inspire a lot of people, but number two, to inspire the dev team to take a look. And so without him making his mark, this wouldn't have happened at all. So, so you're right though. There was not only was there the split part, but there's also a paradigm shift too that we're working with. For instance, the people really got on board because the rideshare aspect to it, and that is totally an important component and will happen. Absolutely, but it's not the only thing. And I want, my personal goal is to really try to move that, to make that paradigm shift happen by telling people, no, it's a commerce platform. We'll be able to do all sorts of different types of stuff. We just want you to come on and help build it. And so I think that, so that the both with the split, and then with also the sort of the paradigm of what people were originally expecting, and that's okay, because I don't need a lot of hype. I think as we as the tech gets out there and it gets more and more user friendly, people will just start being like, wow, this is cool. And I'll do my best to just keep telling people what it is, and keep expanding sort of our reach from communications. I work with my buddy Chris on doing communications, and we both want to make sure that the message is out there and people hear it, but we also want to do it the right way and not be all hypey. So anyway, yeah, I think over time, as long as we're providing value, then people will be excited about it. People will see it and they'll get it and they'll be excited about it.
Yeah, I think if you guys just keep doing what you're doing, you'll have a good problem to have. It'll be way too many users. You'll have way too many things going on. It'll explode quickly. So.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Well, listen, thank you so much for having me on. I mean, it was a pleasure to meet you and fun to chat.
All right, thanks, Matt. It was a good time.
Thank you for listening, and thank you to our guest. The Blockchain Show is brought to you by Heather Sullivan, our logistical queen behind the scenes, Steve Anderson, our main interviewer and knowledge meister, Sarah Hempfling, our artistic genius, and me, my name's Ethan, and I just try to hold it all together, artistically speaking.